It was raining on the day my parents disowned me. It's the cold, harsh rain that soaks through your clothes and hurts your bones, not the gentle, serene sort that makes the world smell good. In hindsight, the conditions were ideal for what was going to occur. At the age of 22, I believed I had my entire life mapped out. My name is Natalie. I was mistaken, but not about the decision that made all the difference. The kitchen counter's reality. You're keeping it. My mom sounded like she'd been slapped when she spoke. Like a ticking time bomb, the pregnancy test sat on the kitchen counter between us. She insisted, "What about medical school? What about your future?" I stated, "I can do both," as my hand automatically went to my still flat stomach. "Other women manage it," I recoiled as my father slammed his coffee mug down so forcefully. He snarled, "Other women have husbands, Natalie. Where's the father?" I inhaled. "He's not in the picture, and he won't be." Mom laughed, but it was a hollow laugh. "Of course he won't be, because you won't tell us who he is. For all we know, you don't. I didn't mean for my voice to sound that sharp. Don't finish that sentence." My dad began to pace while rubbing his palm over his jaw, as if he were attempting to contain something. "This isn't how we raised you." He shrugged and mumbled, "This isn't what we sacrificed everything for. We came to this country, worked ourselves to the bone, just for you to throw it all away." I insisted, "I'm not throwing anything away. I can still be a doctor. I can still—" "No," Mom interrupted. "You can't. Not like this. Not alone. Quiet." Between us, the air seemed heavy and oppressive. My father then spoke in a stern but hushed voice. "There's a solution. A simple one. Then you can continue with your life as planned." I understood his meaning perfectly. I placed my hand on my stomach more firmly. "No." A long silence. Then came my mother's icy, decisive voice. "Then you leave us no choice. Discarded like nothing, the words you're throwing me out?" It sounded strange to me. "You're deciding to go," my dad clarified, "by choosing this. Mistake over your family." I can still recall every detail of that day 8 years later. The rain is beating down on the glass. Dad's coffee was starting to smell chilly. As I packed what little I could carry, I could hear my footsteps on the stairs. On that first night, I was taken in by my best friend, Penelope. She was already a single mother, surviving despite the challenges. She held me while I sobbed and whispered, "They'll come around. Once they meet their grandchild, they'll change their minds." They didn't. A fresh start, devoid of them red-faced and flawless. Walker was born on a Tuesday morning. I provided photos of my folks. They were never opened. I sent cards on their birthday. No answer. I provided updates on his initial statements and steps. Nothing. I didn't let it break me, though. Between student loans, part-time work, and lengthy study sessions while Walker slept, I somehow made it through medical school. I managed to make it work even if it wasn't the life I had anticipated. Walker, too? He developed into the smartest, sweetest youngster I had ever met. He flashed a drawing at me one evening while coloring at the kitchen table. "Mommy, look. We were the ones." A tall and a petite stick figure are holding hands. Where grandparents should be, there should be no empty places. I pinned it to our refrigerator, next to his flawless spelling exam from the previous week, and remarked, "It's beautiful, baby," he said. "Can we have pizza tonight?" "Not tonight, sweetie," I whispered as I stroked his curls with my fingertips. "Remember, we're being careful with money this month." My resident's salary had only gone so far, and the heating bill had been greater than anticipated. Already accustomed to similar exchanges, he nodded. "That's okay," he exclaimed, grinning. "I like your spaghetti better anyway." The smell of crayons and playground dirt seemed to follow him home every time, so I gathered him in an embrace. And I pondered. Were my parents aware of what they had lost? Were they concerned at all? A basic choice that revolutionized everything. I made the decision to clean out my old winter coat before donating it that evening as Walker worked on his math assignment. Penelope knew someone in need of one, and it hardly fit anymore. Something in the left pocket touched my fingers. A lotto ticket from months ago that was forgotten. I nearly tossed it away. Walker, however, lifted his head from his notepad and gave me the same smile that had sustained me through innumerable restless nights and depleted bank accounts. And I had the thought, why don't you check? What could possibly go wrong? I had no clue that one small choice would have such a profound impact. The figures that revolutionized our lives, Mom. Why are you staring at your phone like that? Walker's voice sounded far away, like it were coming from a different room. I was immobile, unable to breathe. I was unable to comprehend the numbers on my screen. Those were the same numbers as the rumpled ticket I was holding. Baby, go get Aunt Penelope from next door, right now. He fled without asking me, so he must have heard something in my speech. Penelope, still wearing her scrubs from her night shift, rushed in a few moments later. Natalie, what's wrong? I silently gave her the ticket and my phone. Before her eyes widened, she glanced between them 3 times. She said, "Holy," and then placed her palm over her mouth hastily while looking at Walker. "Is this real?" "I don't know," I said. I can't think straight." The numbers were read aloud by Penelope. $47 million? Following taxes? I still had more than $20 million to consider. My sleeve was pulled by Walker. "Are we rich now, Mommy?" I shook my hands and drew him into my lap. "I don't know yet, sweetie. We need to make sure this is real first. But in the back of your mind?" I was aware beforehand. Additionally, I was unaware that the following time I received a call would come from those who had disregarded me for the previous 8 years. My phone rang before I had even had time to process the news. I didn't recognize the number at first. My parents hadn't contacted me in 8 years. It's been 8 years since they stopped talking to me, disregarded my son, and removed me from their lives. However, as soon as I noticed that unidentified number flashing on my screen, I was aware. Penelope noticed my hesitation and sat next to me, her eyes wide. "Do not answer that." However, I did, since I was interested in hearing them speak it. "Hello?" A pause occurred. Then came a voice I hadn't heard in almost 10 years. "Natalie, sweetheart. How are you?" It nearly made me chuckle. "My dear?" It was Mom, the same person who disregarded every picture I ever sent of Walker and even told me I was ruining my life. And now? She spoke to me as if nothing had occurred, as though she hadn't kicked me out. "I'm fine," I said with no emotion. "Why are you calling?" Her voice was brimming with phony love as she asked, "Oh, do I need a reason to check on my only daughter? We've missed you so much. Your father and I talk about you all the time." I tightened my jaw. Falsehoods. They had 8 years to call me if they had missed me. I remained silent as I waited. And she addressed the true purpose for the call, as I had anticipated. "I saw the news, sweetheart. You won." What an incredible blessing. God must have really been looking out for you. Oh, it was there. She had no regard for me. The money was important to her. I was family again all of a sudden. Mom went on to say, "Your father is so proud. He always knew you were destined for great things." Bullshit. I was referred to as a mistake by this same man. The same guy who tossed me like I was nothing into the rain. "We were thinking," she said, "that we should all get together. A family reunion. We can finally put the past behind us." I nearly dropped my phone. Move on from the past? As if they hadn't abandoned me when I most needed them in the past? Penelope was theatrically mouthing the phrase "hang up" as I looked at her. However, I wasn't finished yet. I said, "You ignored me for 8 years," in a cool but stern tone. "What changed?" Quiet. Then she sighed dramatically. "Natalie, we were hurt back then. We were just trying to teach you responsibility. You know we love you." I gave a little chuckle. "Love me? You don't even know me." She hurried away, saying, "That's why we want to fix things. We were thinking, since you're doing so well now, maybe you could help the family out a little. Your father's retirement isn't what we expected, and we've had some unexpected expenses." I shut my eyes, and there it was. They weren't even trying to act concerned. All they wanted was a paycheck. They didn't think I would say no. Slowly, I said, "So, let me get this straight. You disowned me, ignored my son's entire existence, told me I was a disappointment. But now that I have money, suddenly I'm part of the family again?" Mom paused. "Sweetheart, it was never about that," I interjected. "It was always about that, and I don't owe you anything." Another long silence. Her voice then became cold. She spat, "You ungrateful brat." The truth was eventually exposed, and there it was. After everything we've done for you, she growled, you would seriously turn your back on your own parents? I gripped the phone more tightly. I reflected on all the nights I had studied with Walker sleeping on a floor mattress next to me. I reflected on all the times I had to decide between buying my son a birthday present and paying a bill. I considered each and every phone call, text message, and letter they disregarded. And I have no sympathy for these folks. I said, you turned your back on me first, in a steady voice. I hung up after that. The actual repercussions start Penelope gave me an Oscar-worthy clap. That was the most satisfying thing I've ever witnessed. I let out a trembling breath. They're not done. This is just the beginning. And I was correct. Because tomorrow, they began phoning everyone. Aunt Linda, my former neighbor, even the preschool teacher of Walker. They made up a new tale in which I was the bad guy. Natalie abandoned us. She's turned cold, selfish. All we wanted was to reconnect as a family. But she refuses to forgive. Aunt Linda even called me, her voice brimming with gibberish that made me feel guilty. Sweetheart, they're your parents. No matter what happened in the past, you'll regret shutting them out. Reminding her, they shut me out first. And I don't regret a damn thing. The last straw. I had the option to disregard the rumors. I could have allowed them to speak freely. Then again, they pursued Walker. It was his school that called me. Miss Calloway? We just wanted to check in. A woman claiming to be Walker's grandmother came by today, asking to see him. My blood froze. Did she talk to him? No. We didn't allow it. She didn't have authorization, so we turned her away. But she was very persistent. Said she was worried about him, that you weren't in the right state of mind to raise him properly. Red-eyed, I sat there clutching the edge of my desk. They weren't merely attempting to blame me. They were attempting to portray me as an unsuitable mom. That evening, Penelope discovered me packing a suitcase. She said, "Where are you going?" I closed the bag with a zipper. To end this. For what if they believed they could coerce, intimidate, or frighten me into complying with their demands? They were going to find out just how mistaken they had been. It had been 8 years since I had visited my parents' home. However, I knew I had to end this as soon as I learned they had visited my son's school and were attempting to persuade the staff to allow them to see him permanently. I wasn't crying when I drove there. I wasn't trembling with terror. No, I was furious because I was no longer the only one involved. Walker was the subject of this. Furthermore, no one was going to jeopardize my son's security, face to face with those who cast me out. After pulling into the driveway, I turned off the engine and got out. Standing in front of this house once more felt unsettling. I grew up there, grieved, laughed, and pleaded for love that I would never receive. The location where my parents had informed me I wasn't worth staying for after looking me in the eyes. I rapped once, then twice. No response. All right. It was the first time I had ever needed an invitation. I opened the door and entered. The living area remained mostly unchanged, with the same rigid furnishings and chilly, monochromatic decor. Now, however, something was different. Me. That fearful, defenseless girl they flung out into the rain wasn't me. Now I was stronger, more intelligent. Furthermore, I wasn't here to plead. With her phone in hand, my mother turned the corner. Her face lit up with phony warmth as she saw me. She exclaimed, "Natalie, sweetheart, you finally came home!" I burst out laughing. I said, "Cut the act, Mom," and moved forward. "You don't get to play concerned mother now." As though annoyed, she blinked. "I don't know what you're talking about. Walker's school called me," I said, breaking off. "You went there, pretending to be a worried grandmother. You tried to convince them. I was an unfit mother." Her phony friendliness disappeared. My father came out of the hallway before she could say anything. His face darkened as soon as he spotted me. "So, you finally decided to stop ignoring your family," he added, crossing his arms in the process. I gave a snort. "I wasn't ignoring you. I was making it clear that you have no place in my life." My mother sighed dramatically. "Natalie, we just wanted to be sure you're raising him properly. A child needs family after all." With a voice as icy as ice, I advanced one more step. "A child needs family," I said once more. "Funny how you didn't feel that way when you threw me out into a storm." She pursed her lips. "That was different," I yelled. "How?" Explain it to me, Mom. How is it different? Quiet. My dad took over. We're not here to argue about the past. The fact is, we have concerns about Walker's upbringing. You're not exactly in a stable position, Natalie. Single mother, no real support system, I retorted. I have a support system, Penelope, Olivia, my friends. And I'm a doctor, Dad. I built my life from the ground up without your help. You don't get to call me unstable just because I don't fit into your perfect little mold, he sneered. Don't act like you did it all alone. We raised you, we gave you everything. And that's when I lost my temper. Did they want to claim my achievement? Well, I don't believe so. I gave a little sour laugh. Everything? I said once again. Let's talk about what you actually gave me. With a steady, incisive, and unwavering voice, I took a step closer. Did you pay for my education? No. Did you help when I was working 2 jobs, trying to keep a roof over my son's head? No. Did you even acknowledge his existence? No. I cocked my head. So tell me, exactly what did you give me, Dad? Despite clenching his jaw, he remained silent. At last, my mom broke. She exclaimed, We just thought you'd be grateful. After all we did, we thought maybe you'd want to help us now that you're successful. It was there, the truth, uncovered. Ah, I nodded in agreement. So that's what this is about. You don't care about me, you care about my money. Then she objected, That's not true. My voice sliced like a razor across the air. Enough. I walked over to the door. I put my hand on the doorknob and said, I will take legal action if you ever try to contact my son again. And if you think I'm bluffing, try me. When I left, they didn't follow. I had the last say for the first time in my life. And it was so satisfying. The repercussions, they continued their small-scale slander campaign. What's different today, though? I didn't give a damn. Allow them to share their heartbreaking tales. I abandoned them, so let them sob to family members about it. The truth was known to those who cared. Walker, too? He was content, secure, thriving. All that mattered was that. He yawned and glanced up at me one night as I was putting him to bed. Mommy? Yeah, baby? Are you happy? I was taken aback and blinked. Of course I am. Why do you ask? He grinned drowsily. Because you look happy now. Then it dawned on me. Not only was I free of them, I had the freedom to be joyful. And I wasn't going to waste any more time searching in the past. I assumed the difficult part would be severing my parents' ties. It wasn't. Unlearning all they had taught me was the difficult part. I have been indoctrinated to feel bad about establishing limits for years. For years, I thought that family always came first. Family isn't blood, though. Love is family. What about my parents? I wasn't loved by them. They cherished authority. And now that they were without it, they were in a grave situation. The final effort to bring me back in 3 months had passed since I left their home. Peace for 3 months. No phone calls. Don't text. No unwelcome guests. Right up until I received a letter in the mail. I nearly tossed it out at first. However, it caused me to pause for some reason. It wasn't written by hand. They didn't do it. It came from an attorney. My blood boiled when I glanced at the first line. This letter serves as a formal request for reconciliation and financial support on behalf of Mr. and Miss S. Calloway. I was being sued, once more, for monetary support. The same people who kicked me out, my parents, now wanted me to look after them, incredibly so. As soon as I finished reading, I gave Olivia a call. They're suing me, I stated bluntly. A long pause ensued. Next, excuse me, what? With a tone of skepticism, I read the letter out loud. They claim I owe them for raising me. They want me to pay for their mortgage, their medical expenses, and their retirement needs. One more pause. Olivia then laughed. She remarked, Oh, they are actually insane. They didn't care if you lived or died for 8 years. But now that you're successful, they suddenly need you, apparently. Are you going to fight it? I grinned. What do you think? They didn't think I would fight back. I wasn't only resisting it. I was going to ruin their chances of ever attempting this again. I gave my lawyer, Daniel, a call and gave him the letter. He didn't take long to answer. Natalie, this case is laughable. They have no legal grounds to demand your money. But if they want to go to court, we can countersue for harassment. Do it, I said at once. Are you sure? This will burn any bridge left. I laughed a little. without humor. That bridge was ashes a long time ago. Karma in the courtroom. I entered the courtroom on the day of the hearing with a confident demeanor. My parents had already arrived and were seated rigidly at their table. Mom wouldn't even look at me. When I passed, my father sneered. He said, "You're really doing this?" I failed to acknowledge him at all. I simply sat down and let my attorney do his work. And my goodness, it was fulfilling. Daniel dismantled their argument. They had disowned me years ago, he noted. He provided evidence that, as an adult, I had never taken their financial assistance. He even played texts and voicemails they had left throughout the years, demonstrating their indifference and animosity. The magistrate? They didn't impress me. The decision? They were compelled to reimburse my legal bills in addition to having their case dismissed. Then they were defeated once more. The final words I spoke to them. My parents followed me out of the courthouse. My mother shouted out, "Natalie!" in a begging tone. "Wait!" Slowly, I turned. I saw it for the first time when she looked at me, actually looked at me. Not rage, not animosity, desperation. They were defeated. They were aware of it. She said, "We're still your parents." I cocked my head. "Are you?" Anger twisted my father's face. "You'll regret this." I grinned, genuinely grinned. Calmly, "No, Dad," I answered. "I won't." Then I turned to leave. And now? I didn't turn around.